What's up, everybody? So, for today's video, we're going to be reacting to Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 7 Breakdown. I thought this can be like a good alternative to like me watching like those videos, like reaction videos of people reacting to the episode. I feel like this could be better instead of like an 18, 17-minute video of me just reacting to the episode. That way I could just like understand the episode greater. You know what I mean? So, and if you guys hear noise, that's just the painters or like the construction and shit. My bad. But anyways, if you guys like, let's just get into this video. So yeah, 3, 2, 1, boom.
Okay, so previously on Heavy Spoilers, we were covering Rick and Morty Season 6 every single week. However, there was a bit of a break, but we're back with Episode 7. Packed with Easter eggs, callbacks, and little details, this breakdown is going to be going through it all to bring you a big review of the latest entry. Titled Full Meta Jack Rick, this title is of course a nod to Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. The episode starts off in the style of a previously on recap, which is used to great effect to not only fill in the gap, but also set up the premise of the episode. Early on, Rick and Morty find themselves trapped in a previously on segment, and the intro follows them as they break on through it. To me, it's the most creative opening I've seen for a Rick and Morty episode, and it's so well put together, chronicling the events of this season whilst adding some new stuff. We start off with a clip from Bethic Twinstinct, with Space Beth admitting that she had sex with Beth. Next, we cut to episode 6, after Rick fixed the portal gun. Now from this point, we get a new sequence which was added to the titles, and it shows Rick and Morty meeting Jack the Ripper. You can see that he's just carried out one of his killings because of the feet that are popping up in the bottom corner. This is something that's only been used in the title sequence, and at first, I genuinely questioned whether I'd missed an episode. Hashtag heavy spoilers falling off as always, and they end up passing through this scene later on when they invade the titles. We then get Summer announcing,
I'm pregnant!
And this happens at her 18th birthday. We learn the same thing happened with Beth as well, and then cut to it raining meatballs. Clear reference to the movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and before Rick can fully work out what's happening, we're transported to Jerry's funeral. We learn that he died whilst getting stung by bees.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees!
Ooh, wrong channel, and this is a reference to My Girl, namely how Macaulay Culkin's character Thomas died.
Spoiler alert.
Later on in the Green Mile-esque public execution
I
scene, we see Beth
think I
is the one
remember
who's
that
been
movie, but
sentenced
not
to
really.
death for being the suspect that killed Jerry. I think Jerry's funeral was swapped in to try and throw Rick off, but he's still very suspicious. Also, Summer is heavily pregnant at this point, and she vows to call the baby Jerry Jr. Tony Hawk then makes a cameo to thank them for solving a murder, and shows of course throwing random celebrity ones that they keep constantly going on about. Now Rick manages to predict how the algorithm of the previously on construct is working, and after he gets Morty to propose, this sends them to a cliffside wedding. Rick brings up that for their honeymoon they should
Let's go to a sealed chamber lined with ionized deuterium. Why? Because the charge acts as a narrative decelerant.
Now, using the phrase next time on, they're able to draw previously on out, who has the typical previously on voice. Guy shows up wearing a Letterman jacket with P&L written on it, and they jump onto him, which pulls them into the intro sequence. I rarely laugh out loud, but this had me absolutely dying as they went through the famous sequences that we've seen over and over. This includes a scene in which Rick leaves Morty behind to die, which Rick tells Morty that he shouldn't look at. Because of this scene, there's been so many different theories on what's going on with this opening, and there are some clues throughout the season that have hinted towards what's happened here. I had to dig into the archives of Reddit to see what the theories were, and some date back as long as 7 years ago. Found one from 4-in-1 Punt talking about how the pilot has Rick explaining things to a Morty, even though it's said that he always has a Morty. This made people think that he was actually with a replacement Morty, and the original one was the one that we see die here. Then theories started popping up that this is actually evil Morty. His origin story is unknown, and many people have speculated that he managed to escape this, and this is the event that set him off on his path. I think it's more likely the former, because there's no way Morty is getting out of that. Now they go through the glimpses at the new clips, including the butter one, with Rick calling it the best episode. From here, they're finally electrocuted by the title sequence, which takes us into the rest of the episode. Now this video is sponsored by Kamikoto Knives. They're running a massive Black Friday sale right now and giving up to 85% off along with free shipping. However, /heavy spoilers, and you get that extra $50 off. That's kamikoto.com/heavy spoilers for that extra $50 off. Get a set for yourself or for a loved one at kamikoto.com/heavy. From the episode Never Rick and Morty. From $50 off. Get a set for yourself or for a loved one at kamikoto.com/heavy spoilers. Now, this entry has heavy references to Story Train from the episode Never Rick and Morty. From beginning to end, there's several different methods of storytelling, and huge shoutouts to tvtropes.org for specifying that the entire episode has conventional troping, meta storytelling, callbacks, fourth wall breaking elements, and lampshading of the fact that it's a meta episode. Along with Previously On, we get other characters that fit this kind of wordplay like Mislead, Flashback, Continuity Error, Protagonic, Mr. Twist, Bretcon, Tagman, and Joseph Campbell. Now the latter is the famous writer who basically outlined the hero's journey. This storytelling device showed the stages that a hero must go through, and it's been adapted into several movies, games, and books. Basically tells the origin story of a protagonist and has them go through a call to adventure, supernatural aid, meeting a guardian who ends up dying, abyss, which is basically when they're at their lowest point, a transformation, atonement, and basically then they come out on top. He wants them to have more Season 1 adventures, and it makes sense that Campbell would say this as he basically outlined the origin story model. Morty becomes self-aware, and Previously On talks about how cool this is, and basically, it sort of reminded me of the She-Hulk finale, and Rick hilariously calls it bullshit. In order to escape, Previously On breaks through the fourth wall, and Rick gets them VR glasses that help show the inner workings of the show. Now firstly, we see a Deus Ex Machina. If you didn't pronounce this Deus Ex Machina at some point in your life, then me and you, we're not built the same. This translates from Latin to mean God from the machine. In storytelling terms, it's used when a character is in a seemingly hopeless situation, and someone or something pops up out of nowhere to save them at the last second. This basically happens when Jesus drops down to save Previously On, and then later on when Previously On takes out Jesus. You also see Chekhov's gun, and this thing originates from the idea that if there's a gun on the wall in Act 1, then it has to be used in Act 3. More literally, it was used in Shaun of the Dead, but it basically means that if you set something up early on, that you should pay it off later in the story. We also see gratuitous violence, foreshadowing with a telescope, an action-enhancer motorbike, along with a ticking clock along the top. Rick says it's bad when they constantly do this kind of stuff, and that the fourth wall breaking lines should just be left to him. Rick also mentions Moonlighting Season 3, which is where Bruce Willis got his big break, and they journey after Previously On. Here we see one of Joseph Campbell's initial tropes, which is the trial mountain. Now typically, a hero would have to overcome something like this early on to build themselves up. Rick feels like the longer they stay there, the more their credibility will fade away, and he mentions it being like 10 Space Jam cameos, sort of roasting themselves here, as the pair of course did cameo in the latest Space Jam. Now Previously On starts to pray, and after the arrival of Jesus, we meet Story Lord. Now he planned to trap them here after they trapped him in a Bible episode, and the entire entry he's just seeking out motivation. Jesus goes on the attack, and Morty calls this out as being similar to South Park, which saved me from doing it. Jesus also breaks Rick's back, and it plays out much like how Bane did it to Batman in The Dark Knight Rises. Bruce having to escape the prison was also a similar conceit to the hero's journey, with him having to overcome adversity. Story-Lord leaves, much to the surprise of Jesus. They bring up how he has the potential to become an unlikely ally. Looking at you, entire Fast and the Furious franchise, however, this Deus Ex Machina is taken out by its own Deus Ex Machina and Previously On. He sucks on his Achilles heel and sends him into his own Previously On. Now stabbing someone the Achilles heel is being used a lot to take people out. It's popped up in things like Pet Sematary, Troy, obviously, and a lot of TV shows and movies. In his Previously On segment, we see that he's joined by a woman who's similar to Megara from the film Hercules. Now this is actually Mary Magdalene, and if you're familiar with the Bible, you'll know that she traveled with Jesus and all of his disciples. She was present at his crucifixion, which we see along with him being resurrected. Now in this Previously On section, he basically travelled through history and met Napoleon, fought the Loch Ness Monster, Dracula, and lastly he became a billionaire that tried to resurrect Mary. Previously On fed on his potential, and we watch in his quote-unquote story how he gave up his immortality after being struck by lightning. Very similar to the storms in Highlander, and finally he died in a hospital bed after being seen by a nurse called Mary. Not crying, you're crying.
Mm.
Now Rick knocks previously on out, and we go to Storylord to see him going to the address on the back of the Story Train box, which is listed as Gleepglor Boulevard. There's also the word ersatz, and this means an inferior substitute. It says it's a citadel, and though the writer was seen as a god, he's really just a bum who's cooking a hot dog over a lighter. This
What
is
the
the Story
fuck?
Train writer, and we discover he was cast out after the
What
episode
the
was
fuck? I didn't
pre-received.
even notice that.
But I quite like it. Now, in the background on the whiteboard, we can see a drawing of the Story Train, as well as Rickleberry Tales, which, to the best of my knowledge, isn't an episode title that we've had yet. Now, the writer says he came up with this title because he was asked to do a story based on the Canterbury Tales. However, in the end, they switched gears and told him to do one based on the Batman episode titled Almost Got Him. This is why we see Batman Poker, and in case you haven't seen that episode, go check it out because it's one of the best ones in the animated series. Here he talks about how he was given a show to work with and made the episode as best he could, but that it would never have worked. He also brings up how the website story/train.com never worked, and it showed how the creative team had no faith in this actual episode. Now I did Google this to make sure it definitely wasn't live, and it wasn't. However, the website mentioned at the end with a plushie does in fact pop up. This takes you to a site that you can get a Rick plush from, but unfortunately it's not available in this universe. Storylord kidnaps him, and elsewhere Rick drags previously onto a fortress. This is the home of the self-referential Six, which only has 5 members, because Mr. Twist constantly makes whoever enters the Six as part of the twist. They journey in through the front door, which is also a trope, and we meet Miss Lead. She basically... Dear me, I'm saying basically a lot in this video. Anyway, that's becoming its own trope. Now, she represents the character who has an uneasy past with the protagonist, and dramatically hits them before forming an allyship. Though Lando never smacked Tan, he did approach him saying that he had a lot of nerve, and this happens a lot when introducing new characters that they want to tie into an unexplored backstory. We also meet Flashback, who is based on the Flash, and he has the ability to jump into people's past to discover new information. There's also Continuity Error, and Protagonist, who can make any character the lead. He actually hits a god called Marvin, and we follow him home as he returns back to his wife. We see a 70s style sitcom for him, where we see his life as a security guard, Loch Ness pops up again, and we see he spend his entire life running away from danger. Rick smashes Protagonist's device, and we see a grenade roll in with Smash Cut written on it. A smash cut is when we jump from one location to the next without a moment's notice, so that the viewer doesn't really have time to question what's really going on. We see on Mr. Twist's belt that he was the one who threw it, and Morty has a twist for him. He does something pathetic and seems to have done no damage, but in reality he bit the key off one of his smash cut grenades. The old pin out the grenade is its own trope, and the first one that springs to mind for this is the ending of Live Die Repeat, because I watched it last week. Also, sometimes called Edge of Tomorrow, and in some countries it's even called All You Need Is Kill. Not joking, the movie has 3 names. Anyway, this takes them to the centre of the prison to free Brett Conn. His cell is surrounded by sports because, as Rick says, it's the opposite of a story. Morty brings up how stupid it is he's called Brett Conn, and how easily that it could be the original word retcon. Brett Conn then retcons this to have the name Brett Conn. Sorry, like... Brett Conn then retcons it to have the name Retcon. We got through it. Now at this point, we also get a return of the butter robot.
What is my purpose?
Pass the butter. Thank you.
Guy first showed up all the way back in 2014, and I loved seeing him back. Now they want to use retcon to make it so that they never went there, and they end up freeing him. Retcon is your godlike character, and you can completely see why he was locked up in the first place. Guy can alter reality at a whim, and following another of Campbell's story tropes, we see as they head into a low point before being saved by someone who becomes a mentor figure. Looking at you, Obi-Wan. Now he serves them up some Campbell's soup, which he admits is on the nose, and we see that he also saved Previous Leon. Previous Leon becomes the unlikely ally, and in his room we can see there's a burning book, an eye in a triangle, as well as a photo of the Invisible Man. Campbell is known for the book The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and the room itself is surrounded with lots of heads. There's also an Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. This is used in storytelling to represent a self-destructive nature, and we can also see a bottle of alcohol standing on the table. This is called Writer's Courage, which no prizes for guessing what that's about. Years play out, apparently, with them living through trials and character arcs. They get called Back to the Future rip-offs, and the pair, of course, started off as parodies of Doc and Marty. Other tropes to show that a lot of time has passed are included, such as Morty growing a beard, which is typically something that male characters do. Women are usually made to be pregnant as well, but since there's none here, he has to do that too. They eventually return back to the title sequence, and we see that Story-Lord has built a massive machine
It's
that
fucked
sucks
up,
the
bro.
motivation. Giant machines are normally a third act trope, and we get a beam even shooting into the sky for it. Superhero movies are littered with this, and the third act normally comes with the characters getting a new suit too. This is also the case here, with Rick and Morty showing up wearing 2 new ones. It leads to a big battle, with Rick's abs being referred to as cum gutters. A big fight ensues, with it leading to conveyor belts and through a factory, which is also sometimes used as a place for an epic conclusion. The third acts normally pair characters off with their equals, and we see that Morty is matched with the writer. He tries to talk him down, and Campbell appears as a Force ghost in order to advise him. He also mentions his Green Arrow script, and we get the idea from what he says that it was terrible. He stops the machine, and we see that everyone gets their motivation back. Story-Lord says that he wants to become the new Mr. Nimbus, and he himself was a character who was brought into the story, apparently sharing a past with Rick that we never saw. Story-Lord gets 2 tropes on the way out, and he dangles over the edge before falling to his death. This is then followed with him giving his final words, whilst the writer cradles him in his arms. He suffocates him using the plushie, which we know from the website is now 50% heavier. The writer returns home and starts scrambling ideas about a magic pencil, and a story of a writer that he gets very excited about. As we learned earlier, Joseph Campbell sees everything, and he desperately tries to tell him it's a bad idea, but unfortunately he can't see him. Now, the entire episode itself has been about all the conventions of writing, so a writer writing a thing about themselves is sort of lampshading that joke, and basically, come back that word, basically summing up the entire episode. Cut to the post-credits scene tag to see Tagman, who's basically the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok. Battling in a gladiatorial arena, he destroys his foes with ease, and that ends the episode. And what a bloody episode it was. Such a good return, especially after the break, and this had so much going on with it that it was difficult to not marvel at how crazy it went. This is one of the most meta entries in a show that already breaks the fourth wall consistently, and I had a blast watching it, even if the breakdown was a nightmare to put together. But I hope you enjoyed it, and obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments section below. We are in a competition right now and giving away 3 copies of House of the Dragon Season 1 on the 15th of December, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now.
That shit fucking crazy though, bro. Damn. I fuck with how they're doing the fourth wall. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think they did that. They did that. They're fucking crazy. Anyways, if you guys like my reaction, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, motherfuckers.